Today, we're sprinkling joy into your day. Welcome to the Create a Magical Day podcast. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Create a Magical Day podcast. Your host, Joyful Jania, and I am so excited to be here with you today. And I have a special guest with me that I will be introducing, and we will chat about joy. So, I like to start the podcast talking about joy. So something bringing me joy today is I had an opportunity to spend the day with my two best friends. I haven't seen them in a little while. So I drove up to Houston. We had brunch and went to the museum. And it was just like 5 hours of bliss, which was so cup filling for me. And when I woke up this morning, I was in so much gratitude just for being in that space, like with people who I know love me and who I love. And just being really thankful for that. I talk about your tribe and finding a tribe, those people that you can be vulnerable with, that encourage you, that tell you truth, and that are just your cheerleaders. And I'm so thankful to have them. So I hope that you have those people in your life. And if not, get you some. So today, super excited. I have Tej Fuls with us. And I want to tell you a little bit about Tej. So Tej is a transformational and astrological guide. Super dope. I always get readings. Yoga educator and sound healer. She has a dynamic background and offers individual and group sessions that blend esoteric knowledge and brain science and biology. The gong, so many gongs, so cool. Crystal singing bowls and the voice and other sound healing instruments are weaved into her classes, events, and sessions. For Tej, the most influential benefit of these practices is self-awareness and evolution. Her mission is to open awareness to potentials that were previously unseen and believes that the key to unlocking greatness within the lives that we live. This is incorporated into her own practice, and she shares it in her offerings to help create a community that is inspired to step forward on an evolutionary journey. And I have to tell you, I've attended some of her workshops. I've had one-on-one sessions. I've had the astrological reading, and Tej is absolutely amazing. And I'm so thankful that we get to be on this podcast together. So I'm going to bring up Tej.
Hello.
Hello. Oh my gosh. So excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I am so grateful to be here, Jania. Thank you for hosting me today and offering this opportunity to connect and share a little more about what brings me joy in life.
Yay, absolutely. Well, I got to share something that's bringing me joy. So I would like to ask you, what is something that's bringing you joy today?
Oh, wow. Well, today being here and kind of stepping out, right? Doing something a little new and connecting with you is it's such a joy and such a pleasure for me in my life. And I just completed a really powerful weekend full of teaching yoga. And before that, I had a week that was super social. I got to see some family members I hadn't seen in a very long time. And honestly, I went out and socialized a lot more than I normally do. And this filled me up in such a significant way that I'm still kind of banking off of it or still riding on that wave of connection that I experienced this last week. So I'm grateful.
Yay. So it sounds like you have a little tribe.
Yes. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. And it's interesting because my tribe, it's very fluid, right? It kind of shows up in really unique ways. And that's one of my favorite things to do in life is to be okay with the unknown. Be okay with trying out new things and flowing and connecting and maybe with people that I wouldn't normally connect with. It really helps you expand a bit in your life. So yeah, that's kind of how it went for me this past week and weekend.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting you say that because I was thinking today after I finished my Pilates class and I was driving in, like giving my gratitude, just thankful for the people that I have in my life. And I said to myself, being open to connect more with people. Because I started listing the people, who I'm very thankful for and who I connect with. And I was like, on this joyful journey, I like the idea. Okay, so I say this, I always say, I don't like people. Not that I don't like people, right? But
Yeah.
this is something like I always say I'm like the friendliest person with very few friends.
Right, right, right.
Yeah. And I'm open to creating more of those, like you said, like fluid relationships, where they can be cup filling, lessons learned, and just a part of like just our human experience.
Yeah. And I do think that community is so important, because when you really humanize others, then you realize we're all in this together. We're all on this journey. So everyone can be a connection to the divine, right? Everyone can be a part of you if you're willing to see it that way, even the ones that challenge you. So
Right. Absolutely. Oh gosh.
mm,
Well, Tej, I would like to pull a card. So I'm pulling a card from Spirit Junkie. I absolutely love these cards. First of all, I'm obsessed with all cards, just all cards.
yes, yes, I
And I
love
love
the cards.
affirmations and Spirit Junkie. They're a card that I have in my Amazon store. So I always tell people like I love to read the cards, and if they want to grab some, go to the store and grab them. They're so much fun to read. She also has a really dope app, like for people who like apps. I can go on, you can kind of click through, and you can easily share them. So they're super fun. So I'm going to go until you tell me to stop.
Okay. And now,
Okay. All right. The one on top says, can you see this?
yes.
I see grace and possibility in all of life's challenges.
Mm.
So tell me, what comes up for you when I read that card?
Well, and honestly, it reminds me of that past week where I was so willing to connect with people in a different way, right? To do
Mhm.
things I wasn't really ideally comfortable with, if you will. Like I took, so I'm based in Austin, and I took a little drive to San Antonio to go have dinner with those family members.
Mm,
But the thing was, it wasn't just my own family, it was like the family of a family member. And so it was like a connection with, my family, but also like 10 other people that I didn't even know. And so that could
mm,
be viewed as a challenge, right? Like, oh, how is it going to go? I'm not really sure. But the truth was, I found a lot of grace just showing up and being me, because you always get this opportunity to show up however you want, show up as yourself. And especially with people that you don't know, which can we can almost perceive as a challenge. There's such a gift within that, because you get to create who you are moment after moment. And that's what I felt like really showed up for me when I was engaging with some new people this past weekend.
Ooh, I love that. I love how open you are. It's so beautiful. And it's evident, like just being in your energy. So thank you
Thank
for
you.
just bringing that here.
Yes, thank you. Hmm.
All right. So, what I would like to do with this podcast is I want to talk a little bit about who you are,
Hmm.
and your background, and then talk about how joy shows up for you personally. And then we'll do like a rapid fire joy question.
Great.
All right. So I want to start by asking, can you share your journey into the world of transformational and astrological guidance? Like what led you to specialize in yoga, sound healing, and other esoteric practices?
Yes. Well, I think like many people who have really endeavored down this journey of evolution, it started in a way that I didn't really expect. I had graduated from college, and it was like during a time when there was a really deep recession in the United States. So I graduated, I was unable to get the job that I wanted, right? And I was selling shoes at a department store, and ended up losing my job. We don't need to go into the details, but lost the job and ended up in a place where I felt really, really lost, because I had lost my job. I attempted to go into graduate school, didn't get into the school. And I'm sitting here like, at the time I was babysitting my ex's niece. And I'm just like, what in the hell am I doing with my life, right?
Okay. Okay.
And so it was interesting because I had a lot of time, and I had a lot of time to just be with myself and really have to face who I was.
Mm.
And it was such a gift because it gave me an opportunity to review. I had been in college, and during my senior year, it was great. One of my professors had showed us the movie The Secret, right? So the Secret, okay? And
Juicy.
this like changed my life, okay? And I remember being really motivated by it, but then everything kind of fell apart, and I had maybe lost a little bit of connection with it. Well, I'm in this period of time where I have a lot of space, and I start tapping into these questions. Well, if everything's possible for me and it's all about how I'm really thinking and engaging and feeling about my life, what do I really want to do?
Mm.
And it's interesting because I had gone to college and gotten a degree in Spanish. And
Okay, a little hablo español.
yeah, I mean, right, but not anymore. But anyways, I rarely tell people that because they think like I know Spanish. I'm like, I kind of do at this point, right?
Hmm.
But the truth is, it's like I was so far from what I really liked to do.
Okay.
I did love to teach. That was something that always was really interesting to me. And I always was interested in health. And even when I was young, I wanted to be a doctor. So I had this like connection. Then I was like, well, maybe I'll be a psychologist, right? I was all over the place. But I had this opportunity to really look at my life and see, okay, well, what do I like to do? And it was interesting because I was in Ohio. That's where I grew up. It's where I was born.
Okay.
And I became fascinated with surfing. All right. Okay. So I'm
Hmm.
in the middle of Ohio, as they say, the heart of America. No bodies of water, outside of the Lake Erie is touching there's no ocean there. But I'm like, I'm going to be a surfer. That's what I'm going to do. And I was just like,
All right.
I have the secret on my side. I'm going to be a surfer. I'm this like, Ohioan. I'm doing this, right?
Yes.
When I was in college, I had taken yoga as a PE credit, physical education credit. And
Oh,
I
it's
loved
dope you had that in school.
it. It was really great. It was super great. So I ended up taking that, and I had a couple college roommates who had some videos, some like Gaiam videos. It was Rodney Yee, AM, PM yoga. That was like my jam. And I was doing it all the time.
Mm.
And so I had this thing with surfing, and I was also enjoying yoga, and I was like, well, maybe there's certainly a video out there that was, connecting surfing and yoga. And so I found this video called Yoga for Surfers, and I
Okay.
started to do it every single day. Everything had fallen apart. I get this moment to look at my life. I'm like, what do I really like to do? And I was like, oh, yoga. I love yoga. I want to do yoga. And then a few things happened. My sister had moved to Austin. So that encouraged me to move to Austin. I go on the internet and I'm like, okay, I find this yoga studio. At the time, Yoga Yoga was the biggest one
Oh,
in Austin. And I was like, I'm going to go there and I'm going to do teacher training and I'm going to teach there. And then because I needed it to be somewhat practical, especially for the sake of my family's sanity, I was like, I'm going to be a manager too, right? So
oh my gosh, let me spit up my tea. Gosh, I feel you.
with that power of, I don't know, just that innocence of youth, but
Mhm.
also the power of knowing the energy behind that, what The Secret taught me. I had set all of these intentions with a really firm energy. And I was really clear, and no one was going to shake me from it. Even
Mm.
though my family was like, what are you doing? Like, OMG, like, what is going on? Are you okay? And I was like, I don't care. I'm going. This is what I'm doing. So fast forward, all of that actually happened. I did the yoga teacher training. I started teaching. I became the manager. And then through that, I found my connection with Matab Benton, and he was my main mentor for many, many years. And that's how I got into astrology. It's how I got into the gong. It's how I got more into mantra and sound and a lot of the esoteric knowledge. I worked very, very closely with him
Okay.
and became his assistant. And I have some technical skills. So I learned how to build a website and run the business. And then I've been traveling with him and doing retreats. And the connection with him was so powerful for me, and it really did propel me forward. And it gave me the opportunity to become who I am now. So
Mm.
that is the long and roundabout way. And I cut off quite a bit of the steps through there, but yes, that's how I got started. So,
Oh my gosh.
yoga for surfers to
Yeah.
today.
What a beautiful journey. And you know what I like what you pointed out is like, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And I know there are a lot of people who can relate to that. Sometimes we get into jobs because we need the money to survive, or maybe we once were interested in something and we're no longer interested in that.
Mhm.
And we don't know the steps to, I want to say, like, kind of break free, be bold, courageous into doing something different. We become our identities a lot of the times too. So,
Yes.
like, I'm a training specialist. So that's what I have to stay in. I think about like people who are moms and their children go off to college and it's like trying to find their way. I'm a lawyer, but now I met a friend once who was in corporate America. And finally she said, you know what? I love yoga
Yeah.
and I'm going to quit corporate America, making however much she was to doing yoga. And she absolutely loved it and was so passionate.
Yes.
So cheers to you for being adventurous, courageous, and following your heart. So let me ask you, what aspects of guiding others on an evolutionary journey brings you the most joy? Can you describe a moment that made you feel proud of your work?
It's the awe, the look of awe on people's faces when they
Mm,
have that breakthrough, when
okay.
they have that moment of, I didn't know it would be possible for me. I never even thought of things in this way. That aspect of opening awareness to new potentials or to potentials that people didn't really see before, it brings me so much joy. And there was really it's I have so many stories like this, but there's one client in particular who was really struggling. She had seemingly perfect life, but was really struggling and was working with some addictions and some patterns in her life that were not really supportive.
Okay.
But there was so much potential. I was working with her through astrology readings and through the transformational guidance. And she had so much potential for counseling and coaching. Yet there was so much of this like lack of self-esteem. Well, I'm not good enough to do that, right?
Okay.
And this is a really common journey that a lot of us have. We live conditionally. And for her, that was a big blockage in her life of, well, once I get to this point, once I become good enough, right, then I can do it. But the reality is, you're good enough now, and it's time for you to step forward. And so, as I was counseling and working with her over a couple of years, the biggest message that kept showing up in our sessions was that the best way for her to evolve was to actually counsel and coach other people. So fast
Mm,
forward to today, she's
okay.
taken the coaching journey and acquired some of the wisdom and the knowledge she needed. She started to coach, and the shift in her demeanor, in her energy, in her voice even
Wow.
is like night and day. And it is something that brings so much satisfaction and joy into my life to realize that sometimes we need a mirror, right? Because that's who she is for me. She's such a beautiful mirror of my own aspects of myself that think I'm not good enough yet, or I need to be better or more worthy in order to receive what I really want. She's been such a gift because I get to view all of her potential and then she mirrors it right back to me. And it's my favorite way to counsel and to work with other people, um, especially in the one on one sessions, because I think it does tend to not only support them, but support me on my own journey. And it's such a
Yeah.
gift. It's so symbiotic in a lot of ways.
If I may add, I have attended, your in-person workshops. We've done the astrology reading. Gosh, I feel like for the last 41. So this is our third year. And
Mhm.
then last year I did your transformational guidance one-on-one. Okay, so I would like to share my experience with you. the transformational guidance that we did, the one-on-one, was absolutely incredible. What stood out for me most, you mentioned about your client, like that potential or being stuck. Like I felt so stuck, like in that place, and I did not know. I have so many tools, right? But it was like I felt so stuck, and I didn't know like how to release that energy. And
Mhm.
the practice that you gave me has been so helpful. Like I even make it part of my daily routine where it's like I do that reflection on what kind of day do I want to have, like even reflecting on what's working, where did I show up in grace, what could I do differently, not the part, it's not judging, right? But it's
Right.
like, where did I maybe kind of like miss the mark today in terms of the type of day that I wanted to have, like speaking those affirmations into myself and like making it the practice. So like every morning. And what was really dope about what we did too is I appreciated how you asked me the questions and then you just like typed them up for me and then gave them back to me. I think that's really powerful to give people back like what's already in them, because a lot is already inside of us, right?
Yes.
And so we need people sometimes to help us see that and then remind us of that. And you do that, like even through our astrology readings, like you do that. I always look for, I'm like, ooh, it's my birthday, or I'm like, ooh, okay, it's March, April, it's time to do it again. And I appreciate like all the reminders, all the alignment, and just like the way that like you gracefully show up
Mm.
and I really want to say like speak life into me and where I am and where I'm going. So I really appreciate you for that. And I just want to just to plug that if anyone wants an astrology reading, Tej is amazing, absolutely amazing. Like I said, I do it twice a year. The transformational one-on-one coaching, so joyful because you see yourself work through areas where you're stuck. So thank you so much for sharing that. I'm thankful that I had an opportunity, and I know that all of your clients are as well. So thank you.
Yeah, there and I really do receive that and appreciate everything you're saying because it's such a gift being able to get that insight to view someone's birth chart and all the potential that's in there
Yeah.
that sometimes it was so hidden from us if we didn't have, an upbringing that was, if you did have one that was less than ideal, sometimes we get eclipsed or shadowed from the gifts that lie within. And I do
Yeah.
think that's the biggest opportunity that these sessions can bring. And the transformational guidance are great for when you're stuck in these patterns over and over and over again. Where astrology readings, they can, I like what you said, right? It's like speaking life into someone. I feel like that
Yeah.
is exactly what they tend to do. And then they also really validate. They can be so
Yes.
validating. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm like, ooh,
Mhm.
yes, yes. Like when you remind me that
Yeah.
Jania, your success, like corporate, all that, like that's been many years over, like many lifetimes over. And it's that joy.
Yeah.
And it's not like one or the other, but it's like reminding me that like I can stand in my joy, I can live my passions through joy. I can be abundant with joy in all aspects of my life. And that reminder, so when I start like doubting or feeling stuck, I'm like, remember that joy. You get to
Yes.
live in that. That's part of like where you're thriving and what you get to share with other people. You're
Yes.
you're amazing at what you do.
Thank you. Well, and it really shows that you are receiving the information and then embodying it as well. Because this is one of the biggest ways that I keep that joy alive in my life is to keep that future alive, to keep remembering. I mean, because the way, I really do appreciate brain science because I feel as if that is what is going to propel us forward as a human species, is that we have to understand our biology. We have to understand that we're wired to stay the same because that is actually what kept the species alive.
Mhm.
And if you have these really strong neural pathways, meaning that you've had the same thought over and over, you've had the same situation occurring in your mind or in your brain over and over again, the neural pathway is really thick. It's really strong. Think about it like a road. a highway. You know, a 2-lane highway is a little bit easier to cross than like a 6-lane highway. So if you think about the pruning of the synaptic connections, if you're trying to break some thought pattern you've had for 30 years, it's going to take some energy. And so when
Yeah.
it gets really hard, it's important to remember, okay, this is me overcoming, this is me evolving. And growth, evolution, and change is not usually easy. It is difficult.
Hmm.
It is challenging, but it's always worth it, especially when you keep that future alive. You know,
Yes.
got that vision of your future, or your understanding of where you're headed or who you want to be in this life. Keeping that alive is so important on the journey, especially when things get challenging.
Absolutely. I always talk about living inside your imagination. That's where everything starts, right? Because imagination
Yes.
is just like your thoughts. So living inside that, because what it allows you to do is tap into that feeling. And it's the feeling that's bringing us along, the gratitude that we have, right? It's all tapping into our feelings.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So,
Perfect.
so what brings you the most joy with the work that you do?
You know, I love it when I have this opportunity to kind of flow with the intuitive wisdom.
Okay.
So there's one, I think it was Alan Watts that talked about becoming the reed flute. And if you're the reed, you are hollow inside, and you're the channel, you're the vehicle for the wisdom to come through. And this happens a lot, not only in my individual sessions, and especially in the astrology readings, because there's more of that intuitive flow. It's more open for that. But it also happens when I host sessions in yoga classes. And it was like just yesterday, I taught a hatha yoga class, and I had this moment where I just sank in. And all I had to do was breathe and move and allow the information to kind of flow out of me.
Hmm.
And I realized within like an hour and 15-minute class, not everyone's going to hear 100% of what I'm saying. Like nobody is doing that. Not even me. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? So I get it. But sometimes there are these nuggets of wisdom that come out or come through me that will really resonate for people. And it felt like Joe Dispenza says this. He's like, it's like hitting a tennis ball in the sweet spot. That I was
Mm.
like, I didn't understand that until like as much as I have ever understood it until yesterday. And I
Ooh.
was like, I was telling my partner, I was like, I felt like I hit the ball in the sweet spot. I did it yesterday, you know, I just like, yeah. And I felt so empowered and so satisfied and so grateful, because there is this thing when I travel. We had just come back from a Dr. Joe Dispenza weekend, a meditation advanced follow up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anytime I travel and come back and teach a yoga class, I'm like, what am I doing with my life? Is this right? You know how that goes. You go on a trip and you come back to your
Right.
life and you're like, no, I'm just meant to be on vacation all the time. This is
Yes,
my
yes, and
purpose.
yes.
But that second day, like, so Saturday was a little bumpy, but by Sunday, I taught that class and I was like, this is why. I
Mm,
am following my purpose. I am really in alignment with what I'm meant to be doing, at least right now in my life.
okay.
And that flow of intuitive wisdom is, oh, it is so satisfying, and it brings me a lot of joy
Ooh, I
in my
love that.
life. Yeah.
Intuitive wisdom. All right. Ooh,
Mm.
I feel into that. That's beautiful. Well, Tej, thank you so much for giving us a background about you and what you do. I want to move into the tip that you're going to share and how you
Yeah.
utilize this, and that's the fresh air adventures. So the practice you're sharing, it's the fresh air adventures combined with grounding or earthing. So
Yes.
can you tell us more about your fresh air adventures? Like, what do they look like? How often do you do them? And like, what
Mhm.
activities do you usually do like during these breaks?
Yeah. So the Fresh Air Adventures, they were actually inspired by my cat. And
Aw.
it's really amazing because I work from home mainly, unless I'm teaching. And I will be working, and every so often, my cat would come up and he just kind of gets in my face. And he does. He's like one of those cats. He's so sweet and loving, but he'll like lay across my arms, and I'm like trying to type and I can't, or I'll try to reach my paws. I said my paws, but I'll try to reach my hands out and he'll put his paw on top of me, things like this.
Uh-huh.
And he's just like coming up because he wants to go outside. And
Ah.
so I started just like honoring the cat. And so this happens for me. I mean, he probably comes up 2 or 3 times throughout my day, but I also found myself that the more I did this, the more ease I created in my life. I was
Mm.
able to find myself more emotionally balanced. And so with my fresher adventures, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, the cat is one thing, but I'm also becoming a better person in the process.
Ooh, okay.
So I tend to notice it if I haven't gone out in a while, the emotional state that shows up for me when I'm stressed, especially when I'm working, is a sense of frustration or pressure.
Okay.
Like, I'm trapped. I don't want to be doing this. What is going on? Why won't this work? Whatever it is, I don't know. It's just like these thoughts. And I start to kind of feel that heat build and I get the cue. Oh, I need to go outside. And
Ah,
so
okay.
as I go outside, I live in a really beautiful area of Austin that's quite rural, and I have a very nice yard. And so I simply go outside and just connect with Mother Earth. I look around, there's a lot of trees. I have a lot of potted plants. I love plants and flowers. And so what I do is when I go out there, I'm like, hello, plants. I'm like saying hi to the
Yay!
plants and
Love
just
that.
kind of touching and connecting with them. And the more I learn about the energy within a plant, they really do call to you. You can put, I don't know, probes on plants and you can hear their song, if you will, as well. There's this whole science out there of like the sounds of plants and trees, and so just understanding that, I love to connect with the plants that I've potted and kind of nurtured, but also looking at the surroundings around me. And I blended this pretty recently now with the practice of earthing. And so I'd heard of earthing or grounding many, many years ago, finally got around to watching the documentary, which is incredible. And it's essentially the practice is putting your bare skin on the earth. So your feet, your hands, or just connecting your body to the earth. And the science behind it is that they were doing studies and they found that the inflammation within the body was being reduced with a regular practice of earthing.
Wow.
And some people were saying, some studies showed that the blood actually was thinning. And what that does is when the blood is thinner, then it allows more nutrients to flow. It allows the heart to pump the blood a lot easier. More circulation can go into the brain a little bit quicker. And it tends to reduce inflammation. And it's such a neat practice. They found that, in the 60s when we developed rubber and they put rubber soles on the shoes, that was when kind of the start of all these inflammatory diseases showed up.
Wow.
And it's because a lot of times we're disconnected from the earth. So for me, as a person who dealt with, frustration regularly and really chronic anxiety for many, many years,
Mhm.
the concept of going outside, expanding your awareness, slows down the brain waves. Blending this with placing your feet on the earth, reducing inflammation, this has actually produced an amazing experience in my own body. I have a significant reduction in pain, like joint pain. Um,
Okay.
a lot of like almost it doesn't even exist anymore, any premenstrual discomfort. I have no more cramping, none of that
Really?
happens. It's incredible.
Okay.
And then the when I can feel the frustration or the anxiety kind of creeping up, it diminishes it quite a bit. And so it's been such a powerful practice for me to simply go outside, take some deep breaths, look around, walk through my yard, connect with the butterflies, the wildflowers, or whatever is out, depending on the
Yeah.
time of year. But that reduction in pain is amazing. Like it it's changed my life, being able to do this.
No, that is so incredible. So you touched on like anxiety, inflammation, pain in the body,
Hmm.
reduction of like menstrual cramps. That is incredible. I do some grounding. I learned about it some years ago. But let me ask you, like, how often like do you participate in this? Is this like a daily thing that you do, or just when you're feeling something in your body? Because that's really interesting. I think that might be helpful for people who maybe want to try this out.
Yeah, I do it daily. I do it as
Okay.
much as I can. And I pretty much do it on every fresh air adventure that I take because I can. Now, I also realize, that's not always possible for people.
True.
Um, so the studies that I've read, they were saying 20 to 30 minutes daily will tend to create a significant change in people's lives. However, there are what are called grounding mats, and there are grounding sheets you can put on your bed. And if you aren't a person that can get out very often, just due to your lifestyle, you can actually like have a grounding mat in your house or have it at your office. You just have to plug it into a grounded outlet, and they have tests to show if it's grounded or not.
Okay.
But this is especially if you're working with some condition, the more you can do it, the better. But yeah, ideally you do it daily.
Okay.
You'll notice it after 5 minutes. You'll probably notice it, so you don't have to be there like, okay, 20 minutes, got the clock going. You know what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
no, it's not like that. You can go out 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes at a time. And my suggestion is just play around with it
Mhm.
and do what's really accessible for you. Because if you're anything like me, and when I get started on something, I'm like, I'm going to go 100% because I'm
Exactly. Every
responsible.
day,
Yeah.
this time of day, this long.
It's just not reliable, over time. It's not
Right.
realistic for the majority of us. And so I did. I started out really slow, just every once in a while. But now it's something I crave. I'm like, oh, I need to go out. Oh, I got to get my feet on the ground. Like I can just feel it in my body. So over time, it really the time that I spent outside, it has increased, but it's not like a chore. It's not something that I have to schedule in. I just naturally go and do it now. So starting
Yeah.
small is my recommendation.
I like that. And I appreciate you sharing the grounding mat and outlet because I think a lot of people, work in offices or work from home. And so they may not be able to go outside. Like, I think if you're working in a tall skyscraper, or a
Yeah.
building that you just don't have access to, going outside so easily and grounding, having that option. I've never heard of those before. So I am definitely going to look those up. They might even end up in my Amazon store.
Nice.
Because
Yeah.
I think that's great. Because to your point with grounding, like when I do take that time to go outside, oh, I feel so connected. I feel refreshed. A lot of times it's so energizing. So whether I do it in the morning or if I take a midday break, like I try to remember to do that, take a midday break, go outside, take my shoes off, ground a little bit. I always call myself a sun goddess. So if the sun is out, I'm going to be out there dancing with it
Right.
a little bit, get a little sun kissed. And like you said, it could be 5 minutes and then I'll come back in and I just feel ready to take on more of the day. So thank
Yes.
you for sharing that. That's so beautiful.
You're very, very welcome. Yeah, absolutely. It's changed my life. And it seems that's the thing. It's so hard. People look at you like,
Yeah,
really, really.
right. Going outside, a grounding mat. Try it, y'all.
Like,
Try it.
it works. I promise it works.
So, how would you say it has contributed to your joy?
Mm. Well, it's so interesting because the side effect of going outside is you get to see how much life is out there. I mean, literally, there's so much life. And I've always been a fan of nature. I always I'd collect bugs as a kid and have my little bug, house or whatever it was. And on a side note, I would wake up the next morning and my bugs would always escape. And I never understood why. And I found out years later, my dad was like taking the bugs out so they would live.
Oh my gosh. Thanks, Dad, for
So I
making
know
sure the
I
bugs
got it
stayed
from him.
alive.
Yeah. I was like studying the bug house. I'm like, where are
Yeah.
the holes? I couldn't. Anyways, yeah. So I get to go outside and really connect. And the other day, we have the wildflowers here in Austin in the spring, and so I was looking at the little, I can't remember what they're called, but they're little pink flowers, and like buttercups, I think is what they're called. And I was watching the honeybees, and this one honeybee was like going from flower to flower, and he was just covered in pollen. And it
Mhm.
brought me so much joy. I mean,
Aw.
it was so sweet to see that. And
Yeah.
that's something we overlook. We don't see the beauty in nature. We watch it on TV or on a nature special. Literally, just go outside. You can just kind of like sit or squat or whatever you need to do. Um, and it's changed my perspective on our role and our place on this earth, because if in this really small patch of grass there's so much life,
Yeah.
that's such a microcosm of the reality in which we live.
Mm.
And it just gives me a different perspective, and it brings a lot more awe into my life. And that is something that, joy is essentially awe, this feeling
Yeah.
of, oh my god, how amazing. That feeling is really intoxicating to me. It's something that I really want to increase in life, and grounding has made a difference, a huge difference for me.
I love that. It makes me think Einstein talked about finding miracles in just the day to day,
Yes.
like every day being a miracle. And so when we can find those small things to be grateful for, it allows us to see more. Like I like to say, the more we give gratitude for what we have, the more we receive to give gratitude for. And it's not that just things keep coming to us. We see things around us. We spot more. That
Yes.
allows us to stay open. So it's like those small things are so cup filling. We don't have to wait for the big and the large things to happen. It could be, like you said, as simple as the bee with the pollen, making your bed, connecting with the sun, having a cup of tea, just those small things. So thank you so much for acknowledging that, because I think that's important for people to really stand firm on, and to practice, is finding the gratitude, finding the joy in the small things in life.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this has been so great. Thank you for talking about the fresh air adventures and the grounding. So now we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to do like a rapid fire, joyful type questions.
You got it.
All right. So the first thing is, what parts of your morning routine bring you joy?
Ah, meditation. It's my absolute favorite thing to do. I love it. I'm such a meditator. It didn't come naturally, I won't say that, but meditation and listening to inspirational talks. So my favorite teacher right now is Joe Dispenza, but I also listen to other inspirational people that just have an understanding, that are maybe a little bit different from me, and keeping that future alive. That's so important in my life and in my mornings.
Ooh, love it. Okay.
Mhm.
Next, how do you wrap up your evening to ensure you are going to bed feeling joyful?
Yes, yeah, and this is actually a mirror from what you were sharing, where it's that end of the day reviewing. How did I do today?
Yes.
Right? What went really well for me? What were some victories? Where were some areas where I fell from grace, And essentially, how can I evolve that experience? How can I shift that the next time around? And that final moment as you're lying in bed, and your brain waves are slowing down, you're in getting into a naturally meditative state. Well, what is the reality in which I want to live? How do I feel? Well, I know for me, at least right now, that reality, there's a lot of relief, because there are a lot of issues, quote, issues in my life, or challenges that don't exist any longer. The second thing is empowerment, because hell yeah, I did it, right? All the things, I did it. And the final one is ease. Oh,
Mhm.
so much ease in that life of my future. So if I remember in those last moments, as the brain waves are slipping down into theta and delta, and I remember, it's it's the relief, the empowerment, and the ease that is part of
Mm.
my future. Literally program my body throughout the night. And I wake up more inclined to remember that. I don't always remember it in the morning, but I can tune back into it much easier.
Absolutely. Ooh,
Mhm.
okay, good. Two more. How do you stay committed to joy?
Yeah, it's like keeping the future alive. It really is. Remembering it's possible for me. I do like to also watch testimonials of people who have healed. And
Mm.
it can be anything that they've healed from. Um, some conditions I've never worked with to things that I have. And understanding that there are a lot of people who have made huge changes in their life. There are a lot of people who stayed committed to their vision of the future, and it worked for them. And so I keep joy alive by remembering that it is possible for me. And I do believe in me. And I know where I'm headed next. So keep that alive. And even though once I reach that moment or that chapter, there's going to be another place that I want to head. And so
Mhm.
remembering that the journey is never complete. It's going to keep going. There's always more joy. There's always more love. There's always more evolution. And when I know that, then I can trust where I am. I can trust that, okay, it's okay, I'm where I am. And there's always more to do.
Love it. Okay, last question. How do you celebrate your wins, big or small?
Mm. I celebrate with a deep feeling of appreciation, right? Taking a moment and bringing my hands over my heart, remembering what I've done and just honoring that. Um, it's interesting, for me, celebrating the victories, it's not something that I think about. It's something that it just naturally comes to me. But I do feel like it's just a simple moment of yes. And recently they were trimming the trees on our road because of the power lines, and they wanted to cut down this whole line of trees. Long story short, we were able to talk to the planner, and it was a different planner who had marked the trees originally. This new planner was like, there's no need to cut down the trees. And it was because of our diligence of like being willing to go out and talk to people like, hey, are you sure you have to do this? Hey, what can we do to save our trees? Right? I
Okay.
love the nature thing. Well, long story short, all that they had to do was trim a few branches to avoid the wires. And that was a victory. And I had to remember, you just had a victory. It's time for you to embrace that, because I do think sometimes we have victories in our lives and we get afraid to feel the joy of the victory
Yeah.
because we're afraid that it won't last, or we're afraid that we're not worthy of it. And so for me, I had to sit, I had to pause, and I had to breathe really deeply and let myself feel the joy. And the more that I allow myself to feel the joy, to celebrate, the more natural it becomes for me. And I can see those small things, like you were sharing, or with the bee and the pollen and the
Mhm.
butterflies and the flowers and all the things. But just practicing feeling joy, it seems so bizarre, but it's actually a real thing. So that's how I celebrate. Hands over my heart, breathe, and truly feel it.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for participating in that. Tej,
Yes.
this has been such a joy connecting with you on the Create a Magical Day podcast. I've really enjoyed learning more about you and how you've come to be this amazing light in so many people's lives. Thank you for sharing the fresh air grounding and just participating in the joyful conversation. Can you tell the listeners how they can connect with you and anything special coming up you'd like to share?
Yes, yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube. I do regular posts on Instagram and weekly videos. If you do like to learn about the moon phases, I have full moon and new moon updates, as well as other tips, throughout the week or on those off weeks to support you in your evolutionary journey. You can find me at my website. It's yogatej.com. I have meditations, individual sessions, tarot readings, all sorts of good things. And right now, if you are in the Austin area, you can find some of my classes. And I teach Hatha and Kundalini, as well as rotating events once a week. So you can find those on my website.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Tej. Thank you again so much. I look forward to another reading, another class, and just connecting with you. I really appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Shania. I really appreciate it too.
And I'll chat with you soon.
Okay.
All right, another successful podcast. What a joy it was to have Tej on. I just really love her spirit and connecting. I hope some of the things that she shared with you today, some of the practices that she does with her clients, as well as personally, really resonated with you. Take that time, go outside, connect with Earth, watch the little bees flying around. And if you can't get outside, then get your grounding mat. I encourage you to do that. If you love these cards, the Spirit Junkie, remember we pulled a card today. I recommend going to the Amazon store, check it out. You can access that on Create a Magical Day. Pull the cards, they're fun. Just remember that every day may not be filled with joy, but you can create joyful moments every day. Joy is your birthright, and let's make it a priority together. See you soon. Hey, it's me, Joyful Jania, with a post podcast wrap up with Tej. I just went outside and did my fresh air and grounding, and I feel so energized. I probably stayed outside for about 5 to 7 minutes, no shoes, feet on the grass. I even closed my eyes and just felt the air. Something that I added was my gratitude. So as I was standing out there with my feet planted, I started reflecting on all the things that I was grateful for. And whenever I do that, it's so cup filling. I'm ready. I'm so ready for the rest of the day. Of course, talking to Tej has me energized anyway, but going outside was so nice. You know what? Okay, so it allowed me to kind of calm myself from our podcast interview. And then it energized me back up, but in a different type of way, like more in like a focused type of way. So I encourage you, go outside, do your grounding, connect with the earth. It's absolutely beautiful, and there's so many benefits. Get your booty outside. And if you can't, remember there's a grounding mat too. I hope that you have the most joy-filled day, filled with joy. And just, take time to create those moments. All right, catch you next time. Peace. I'm over here doing a virtual dance because you just finished another episode of the Create a Magical Day podcast. Hit subscribe so you never miss a show, and share with a friend who could use a boost of joy. Visit createamagicalday.com for show notes, joy resources, and to join our email list for extra inspiration. If you're looking to connect with more joy creators like you, join my exclusive Joy Creators Facebook group. See you next week. Remember, every day may not be filled with joy, but you can create joyful moments every day. Go out there and make it a magical one.